We off?
30 seconds of carefree bliss.
Oof, like wind in your hair carefree.
Oh, like using Clorox Disinfecting All-Purpose Cleaner in the home carefree.
Yes!
Like dog slobbing on the coffee table and cleaning it with Clorox carefree.
He's on a roll now.
Spit toothpaste on the faucet.
You got it. You got it.
Peanut butter on the light switch.
Oh, spritz, spritz.
Spritz, spritz. Clorox, man. Clean feels good.
Okay, we're back.
Use as directed.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku. And it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to
Eejits of the World! The history lesson part
1.
Yes.
Yes, with me, Andrew Maxwell.
And me, Glenn Wool.
2 of your favourite foolish history buffs.
Yep, we read books.
We read books, and that's how you become a buff.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's very much the opposite. I was reading books when I should have been buffing, but...
Sure. Sure, whatever. This week on the inaugural Eejits of the World History Part 1, we are discussing the Russo-Japanese War.
Yes, we are. And then we are going to dip over to New York and listen to stories from sailors.
Ooh, on the high seas.
High sea sailors.
There's also the World of War reenactment.
Ooh.
The chin scratcher.
Yeah, well, the only way to combat that is to talk about the pyramids.
Yes, the Eejits of the ancient world.
That's right.
And finally, the Eejits of American sport.
Oh, many.
They will return once again.
Yes.
The first story that I would like to bring to you is a magnificent pile of steaming historical stupidity. And it weirdly, considering this is called Eejits of the World, and it's all happening while Russia blunders from one colossal bloodthirsty era to another.
Yeah.
We haven't brought the Russians up since the first episode of Egypt of the World.
I know.
So that I would like to correct that historical error right now, Mr. Glenn Wool.
Correct the record.
By bringing up the Russo-Japanese War.
Well, I know a bit of what's happened there, and that's one of the things too, where after this war, they might actually look fondly back at that. In that, it was. At least it wasn't Ukraine. That was a bad war.
That was badly thought through.
Yeah.
And no matter how much vodka, running straight across a field on a drone. But this war tops it all. Right, so let me set the scene for you, Mr. Wool.
Please do.
History. Let it begin. 1904.
Everybody stank.
Oh, there was no Lynx Africa available.
No.
Everybody had to use an outside toilet.
Yeah, just because they stank so badly.
Yeah. Not even their poos wanted to be near them. Here's a genuinely strange, really strange. Before we go any further, let's start with the history of defecation, if you would.
Okay.
There's, back in the day, during Elizabethan times, so, you know, the sort of stately homes that would dot the English countryside.
Yeah.
Of the Elizabethan era. The rich would own 4 or 5 of these stately homes, and they would just poo in them. Not chamber pots and have the servants, you know, doing it into a bucket and then getting somebody to remove it. No, they just pooed all over the palace. So they'd absolutely pooed it out. Then they would move on to another palace, and the servants would stay there and have to... The term was sweetening the castle.
Wow.
They would literally just shit all over the castle.
Well, the term was like the cleaning it up was sweetening the castle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's apt.
Yeah, I know, but like, I mean, it's, there's all that, you occasionally you're like, oh, there's one rule for them, one rule for those. But like, you forget like how insane, like that's absolute power. You don't get any more powerful than be able to poo all over a castle and then go, clean it up, peasants.
Yeah. Yeah, surely there was better systems in place. Like how long?
Well, the peasants weren't doing that.
But why wouldn't they just poo on a peasant and make him go roll around in the dirt or something? Why would you want to live in a shitty castle?
When you could just use a peasant's jumper, like a school jumper.
Yeah.
Like, just turn your school jumper inside
Peasant, out. Bring your hands. Certainly, sir.
It'd be an absolute honour, my lord. Oh, that's a warm one. Have you been running around, sir? Please, master. Don't look at me as a man. Look at me more as a toilet with shoes on.
Sleeve. Oh, yeah.
Oh, sleeve, you lucky bastard. It's usually mouth for me. Straight down the hatch. It's a 2 for 1. You remove master's poo, and you also get a delicious snack. Oh, master. Madness.
I know.
Just pooing in castles.
Yeah.
Not in the corner.
Like doing it big production-wise?
Just everywhere. Everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah. There you go.
Well,
I'm against it.
Them. I don't trust Elizabethan people now.
No. Before I thought it was all just, well, what were those things they wore around their necks? Ruffs.
Oh, yeah.
What was that about? I suppose if you wear a big enough ruff, you can't see the shit that you just
exactly. Yeah, you just shit into a peasant's hands. You're not going to want to have a good look at it. Anyway, we're getting way off topic here.
Yes. So, once again, back to the history of the Russo-Japanese War.
Yes.
1905, my friend. 1904 to 1905. So, this is still, Russia was still ruled by the Romanovs. There's Nicholas II was on the throne. He was the one whose wife was friends with Rasputin, lover of the Russian queen, allegedly by a German 1970s disco band.
Yeah.
We'll never know, but nevertheless, that was he of all that carry on, and he wanted Russia to have a warm water fleet in the Pacific.
Yeah.
And the Chinese did have one in a place called Port Arthur. It's not a traditional Japanese name.
No.
I don't really know how that happened. But nevertheless, they coveted it so. So
not the one in Texas, I would imagine.
No, I think they're, probably named after the same dude.
Maybe.
Yeah, could be.
They got around.
The Arthurs.
Yeah.
That's true. But the Japanese also wanted the port, so they came to blows. Mm-hmm. Now, at the time, the Japanese or the Russians didn't have a Pacific fleet. That's what they wanted Port Arthur for, so they could have one.
Right.
Right. It was Japanese, some of the greatest sailors in the world. What would be an archipelago and all that carry on.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah. So, what did the stupid old historical Russians do? They decide to sail their Baltic fleet the other side of the planet, 18,000 miles away.
Yeah.
They went, oh, Japan, you want a naval war, do you? You just give us 6 months sailing time.
Yeah.
Such a long time to sober up, get your act together. Anybody else would be like in the morning, Dimitri, I changed my mind.
Yeah.
No, just shows you how permanently drunk the Russian elite are.
just hitting the tip of towel and going, there's a little restaurant in town. Let's just stop, get a little stew.
Work it all out.
Yeah.
Sober up a bit. No. They sailed the Russian naval fleet was full of conscripts. None of them had been trained.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, how Russia's changed.
That's, They take the valuable lessons from this war and apply it.
Yeah. So they've got a bunch of dudes who couldn't sail, never been in a boat, stuck them in the Navy. They started sailing out of the Baltic, where St. Petersburg is and whatnot. Kronstadt, I suppose, is where they were based. Sailing around Denmark. They get Denmark confused with Japan.
I have many times.
It's all windmills and pig farms. Classic Japan. Quintessential Japanese stuff. Solid defenders.
Domo arigato.
Well, so they are very blonde.
Yeah.
This
goes to show you how racist some of these drawings can be. Look how blonde these Japanese people are.
These Japanese people are very blonde.
Yeah.
So they attack. They're so paranoid about the Japanese.
Yeah.
Now, considering they're still 18,000 miles from the Japanese.
Japan can strike at any point. Japan can disguise itself as Denmark and strike. It's known.
Anytime. They could just be all hanging out. They could have been blonde wigs.
Yeah.
They could have just rinsed the joke shop. Standing on the shore, pretending to be Scandinavians.
Yes.
No, they were actually, all these fishermen were actually Scandinavians. They started firing on Danish fishermen.
Wow.
And didn't hit anybody. Right? The entire Russian Navy opened up on one Danish fishing vessel, thinking it was a submarine. Little tip, submarines don't tend to have sails. They're very much, that's what you're thinking is just a marine.
Yeah.
Not a submarine. Anyway, they all opened up on it, missed, completely missed.
Any word of what happened to Captain Zelensky? Where he ended up moving to?
Yeah, exactly. So they keep sailing around. Now they're at what was called the Dogger Bank incident. Right, so Dogger Bank is off the east coast of England.
Ah.
Originally, here's a bit of geological history for you. Originally, there used to be 2 islands, or 3 islands. There's 2 now. There's Ireland, Britain, and there used to be another one called Doggerland.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It sunk under the weight of marriages trying to spice it up by the laybys of Doggerland.
There's always it's always some city where they had really poor morals. And that's, God hate it.
God sank Doggerland. So Doggerland sank in what they think was the same geological, that's maybe geographic incident that also cut the English Channel.
Wow.
There's the reason why the English Channel has fucking pebble beaches all the way along it.
Ah.
Because it's so new. Those pebbles are waiting to become sand.
Wow. But fresh.
Just takes a long fucking time.
A mere million years ago.
Yeah, it was just a twinkling in a brontosaurus's eye. And that's what happens. So they get around there. They find some English fishermen. Again, they're absolutely convinced these fishermen are in fact Japanese submariners.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they'll do that too.
Again, it's wily old Japanese, almost 20,000 miles from home, passing themselves off as Caucasian fishermen. Madness. Again, they don't get much out of that. Except that Britain was so angry it banned them from using the Suez Canal, so they had to go the long way around. The Russians had no friends, so they had to sail all the way around Africa, and they stopped in Madagascar. Famous from the movie Madagascar.
Yeah.
And the ones who had survived so far, because there'd been an awful lot of friendly fire and accidents and whatnot on the boats, what with them not being trained.
Falling off the boat drunk, I would imagine. Friendly fire. No, you were pissing off the back of the boat and just fell off.
I mean, it's what happens 100 years later now to Russian servicemen. So, yeah, you can't imagine they were smarter then.
Yeah.
So they pulled into Madagascar, and they they were specifically told, now don't bring any exotic animals on board.
Yeah.
And so they merely brought one crocodile.
Just a one crocodile. Come on.
And a giant python that they trained to drink vodka. What could go wrong with a giant snake that's shit-faced on a boat?
Nothing.
Nothing. Again, quite a few men went missing.
I'd imagine.
About a week in, the snake developed a weird lump halfway along.
That's what happens when you stop feeding it vodka. It's like, well, I'm just going to I'm going to eat one of these vodka-drenched things. Have it like a bonbon.
Well, like the way South Africans smuggle, vodka in oranges into sporting events.
Yeah.
That sort of way. There's a pre-drenched Christmas plum pudding of a man.
Yeah. Flambe it.
Sasha he's like being drunk. He's like a liqueur of man.
Yeah.
Real slow release.
Mm-hmm.
That snake would have been drunk for a long.
Once it got down into the fat reserves, it was like, Jesus Christ,
it's like consuming an edible.
Yeah, don't eat another one. I'm not getting anything off of this. Trust me.
Sasha, he is potent, long. Well, you start digesting his legs. That's where he kept the vodka. And eventually, months, all the while, they're on the new. This is no stealth attack. Number one, you can't stealthily attack a country.
No.
From 18,000 miles away. They're picking up news stories all the way. Eventually get to fucking off the coast of Japan.
Right.
And they missed it. Fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's not about attacking Japan. It's about the friends that you've made along the way.
That's right. We've got Crocky the crocodile.
The fattest, drunkest snake anyone's ever seen.
Beautiful snake. So few sailors left. They eventually get to near Japan.
Yeah.
And
think it's Denmark.
Now they think the Japanese are also the Russians. So they signal to them going, hey, fellow Russians, you want to watch out? Those sneaky old Japanese are around here somewhere. The Japanese just open up on them and fuck the lot of them. The longest, you know what I mean? It's like being kicked out of a nightclub, staying awake, drinking 24 hours, and then going back to get knocked out by the bouncer. And that was the first time that an Asian power had defeated a European power in battle.
Oh, lovely.
And
take that, racism.
Yes. And that started the first Russian Revolution.
Yeah,
with the Decembrists.
Yeah, they as a nation, they didn't know how to deal with it.
Because they're massive racists.
Yeah.
Drunken, snake-stealing, massive racists. With no maps. So racist, they couldn't even see race.
No.
That's how racist the Russians had got to, that they couldn't tell a Dane from a Japanese dude apart.
Well, if it's the same story, my dad told me about one of that once where they helped the ship into port in Japan. It had broken down to they had to signal for help.
Yeah.
And the Japanese Navy had to just come out and, all right, come in to fix your ship. And then, why don't you just head on back? Because you're not going to win.
Yes. You've already lost. If we're repairing your ship, that's a real loser move.
Got a kind of gun to your head there. All right, we'll pull this plug or you go home. What do you think? But we're going to have to fix it because you won't make it home in this.
It's unbelievable.
Yes. Well, there they are.
There you go.
The Russians.
The Russians. learning nothing.
Not a goddamn thing. And it's over a warm weather report.
Once again,
Yeah.
causing trouble over warm water ports.
Yeah, what is it with the ports and these guys?
The what? Yeah, just how about move your country to a warmer place? Or maybe that's what the fuck they were attempting.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Or just accept that you don't have a warm weather port. It's not.
And use other people's warm water ports.
Yeah. Like it's the world is it's evolving, and if you just weren't a dick, you could have used the ports. Like they're ports.
Yeah.
They like international things going on. They're
That's right.
sort of designed for it. If you could have just kept your drunk nose out of Ukraine, then you could have had the ports.
You could have just used the port, but oh no.
No.
Well, there you go. So that's what I'm bringing to historical Eejits.
Going on with this nautical theme, I read a book about these fishermen in New York, and this one story caught me, and I just wanted to tell it to you.
Please.
What would happen is in Prohibition times, sometimes they would. Canadians would have these huge bags of whiskey bottles, and they would sink them or tie them to a buoy, and then it would be left just offshore in America, and then they would go get them. Sometimes the system would come in, break the thing apart. So the fishermen in the 50s in New York would sometimes in their nets bring up 24 bottles of Prohibition era whiskey, and the one thing about whiskey is it doesn't go off. It's actually a little better.
It doesn't not always. The reason why whiskey doesn't go off is because it was made off.
Yeah.
It fucking fell. I remember years ago when I first gigged in Edinburgh when I was 20. I was in this. It wasn't even the Fringe. I was just up there gigging.
Right.
And I was at the train station.
Yeah.
And, train station bars are pretty miserable places.
Oh,
in the
yeah.
world, right. And I'm there, and I'm sat beside this proper old purple-nosed Edinburgh old boy. Proper. You know what I mean? Proper, miserable.
Yeah.
And he's there, and he's banging away as cheap Bell's whiskey or whatever it is. And I was going, I can't really drink whiskey. I was just trying to make small talk with him, There's just two of us there, a rainy day. I went, I don't really drink whiskey. It's like, sends me nuts. Yes, what is it about whiskey that sends people like really violent and cantankerous and aggressive? And he goes, mate, it's not the whiskey. When whiskey's distilled, it's, it's a completely clear, like vodka. But then they stick it in barrels for like 10 years, 7 years, 10 years, 14 years. And then it becomes brown because of the wood. Yeah. So it's not the whiskey, it's the fucking trees. It's the trees that turn you into a fucking cunt. I was like, righto. I'm going to just have to take your word for that one. It's like, weirdly, it has a...
Sounds like he's tried it as a defense in court. Your Honor, the only people guilty in this whole story are the trees that flavored the purely fine whiskey. That would have been, I wouldn't have had the problem. So.
Mate, if it wasn't for the lumberjacks, I could have been somebody. Constantly been dragged back into the timber game.
Yeah, doesn't sound like a guy who's taking a lot of responsibility for anything, but a wonderful excuse.
Pretty damn good.
I tip my hat. I tip my hat at the attempt. Although
yeah. So what happens? So you've set the scene.
Yeah. So I'm gonna read. I'm gonna read a little passage from the book. It's always made me laugh. The crew wanted to pitch right in. Oh, fuck. No, hold on. Sometimes a storm would part one from the buoy and it'd go wandering around on the bottom. One hot August afternoon, we emptied the net and out dropped the buoy bag. 24 bottles of square bottle scotch. The crew wanted to pitch right in, but I could just visualize the consequences. So I argued and pleaded, and we decided we ought to store it and use it in the winter for chills. So we stored it. 15 minutes later, the mate complained he had a chill, and then the third man's teeth began to chatter. Then I began to feel a little shivery myself. It was a week before things got back to normal.
Oh my God. How many of them were there?
I guess 3 or 4 of them. Yeah, 24 bottles of whiskey. And in those boats, too, they were designed to go out for, like they'd have enough food to sustain. Like, they didn't have to go back in. Yeah.
They could go fishing.
Well, and I'm, at that point, too, they're probably just going, well, we're not going to fish at all. We're just going to, just kill
24.
Can you imagine? The first bottle that was finished between maybe 4 guys, they'd probably just slip the bottle over the side. There's no need for that. But you get around 7, 8 bottles deep, the flinging, any boat that you think the Russians were attacking weird boats. They were just hucking empty whiskey bottles and, the Staten Island ferry or whatever.
We're coming aboard!
You guys got any fish on there? We're fishermen.
You better have a lot of cuddles for us. We're cuddly fishermen.
Yeah, we are lonely, cuddly fishermen.
Waking up with a whiskey hangover.
In the sea.
In the sea.
In a boat.
In a world before paracetamol. Just feeling your brain just sloshing slightly unmoored within your skull.
Well, and the fact
throbbing.
that they were just going top and tail on bottles of whiskey, it wouldn't even be the hangover. It'd be like when you're down to the last bottle, and then when it's done, then you're gonna have to try and sleep this thing off. But I think that's the hell starts there. I know I'm still in a good mood, but oh my God, we're gonna be 4 guys. Nobody's had a shower for a week, and now we're gonna start sweating this cheap whiskey out of our fucking gills.
AA for sailors. It's time to go into dry dock, boys.
Oh yeah. Nobody would take the boat either. Yeah, you guys can't. You stink.
Somehow, and I don't know how to point it to you boys, but you seem to have stank out a trawler.
Yeah, you guys might want to each hold a rotten fish under your armpit, just because that's preferable to the smell you're making right now.
Oh, God. I would like to bring up the Eejits of war reenactment, because I can understand, in war, it's not easy. People make mistakes. If it's a ridiculously badly run dictatorship like the Russian Empire.
Yeah.
But the people who live now and want to reenact wars, battles, war reenactors. Where I live here in Kent, when I first moved here, it was summer and there was just loads of dudes in army uniforms, but different eras, driving around in, jeeps and stuff. There were guys who were like American GIs from the Second World War, but there was also dudes dressed up as, Cromwell's new model army.
Wow.
I'm like, nobody else in the town was batting an eyelid. And it turns out there's an event that happens most years which is the sort of
Nerd fest.
well, it is described as the Glastonbury of war. Right, genuinely, it's called War and Peace, and it's all the war reenactors. And one year it was on the outskirts of where I live here, and they were all in town. And I'd watched this documentary. I think it was maybe Vice News or something, but it was sort of alt journalism had gone to the event, and everybody's there.
Yeah.
You know, but at least a third of people are dressed as Nazis, right? It's just Nazi dress up everywhere, right? But I'd never seen the Nazis in the town. So I'd asked one of the reenactors who was just around dressed up as a USGI, and he went, "Oh no, they're the rules. Only the Allies leave town in uniform. Go, you know, if you're a Nazi, you've got to stay on camp."
Right.
That's their, you know, their rule of, I don't know, being a good guy, like, well, no. But it also turns out the number one thing that they're selling is Nazi memorabilia. Like, Nazi things go for twice, 3 times as much as Allied stuff.
Wow. I'm not shocked.
So weird. Like, why would you want to reenact war?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like, you know, maybe things from history, like famous Roman orgies or something, that, you know, something that...
Sorry, anytime somebody mentions a Roman orgy, I must ejaculate through my nose. Yeah.
Really odd.
It was odd. It was odd that it happened. I just find them so erotic.
You know, it was sometimes food, Andrew. It wasn't just sex. Sometimes they just got together and ate. Probably not. Yeah.
I know what they were eating. They were eating?
Yeah.
They were eating Dacian slaves. One cornhole at a time.
Oh, dear Lord.
Good Lord.
It made you sneeze.
Well, what? Yeah, that would be that's your historical reenactment would be.
I would do something fun from history. I wouldn't do something like, you know, yeah, sure, it was necessary, or, you know, I'm not shitting on the
Validity of armed conflict through history.
Yeah,
But-
you need it. You need it. Sometimes dicks were coming, and you had to fucking
Fight the dicks.
bunch them in their
Get all your dicks together to fight
get
their
all
dicks.
your dicks, and we're gonna fucking show
We're gonna
ya.
have a dick off.
But, you know, then it would almost be like it would make me fight less hard if I knew, you know, we're doing this so that our children's children can reenact this.
This?
It's like, really, it's not. This isn't fun.
No, but
my buddy's dead. I haven't had a shower in a year.
yeah, nobody's just hacking off a maimed limb without anesthetic.
Yeah,
You're doing the easy bit, marching around in uniforms.
yeah.
You're not doing any of that. Nobody's painting gangrene onto their stump.
Yeah.
So what would you reenact? Where would you go?
You know what I'd like to do, and they actually do have this, like a saloon in the Gold Rush. I think that'd be really cool. Can dancers and carousing.
A lot of carousing.
Yeah. If I could, well, you're asking me if I could see some place of history. I have a fascination of the gold rush, of any gold rush. I think it's
Gold, Mr. Bond.
yeah. I have no want for gold. I just find it's the fascination of a quirk of human nature, where they think it's easy money, but they end up working way harder than they ever would have anywhere else. And the only people who make money off of gold rushes are the people that the suppliers.
That's right. That's what I say. You want to get rich in a gold rush, sell shovels.
Yeah.
That's it. He was a Mormon dude. Was the only guy that made real money out of the gold rush, was selling shovels.
Well, Levi Strauss made a little cash out of
Yeah.
He went up to he was going to sell tents, but he bought the wrong kind of denim, and it wasn't good for tents. And in the end, he was like, oh, well, he's just went, okay, well, I'll make pants. People needed pants. There was a run on pants, a thing didn't ship, and that's why to this day Levi's jeans have a rivet in, just where the little pocket is. You know, the little pocket that's got 2 rivets, and that's a salute to the fact that Levi's jeans were invented out of just pure
Tents.
Yeah, it was easy to find him too. He was the guy in the tent with the pants-shaped hole that you had to walk through. Is this where you're selling? This where? Yeah. Let me cut you a piece.
Must be pretty fabulous finding a nugget of gold.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Actual nugget.
Yeah.
And then trying to work out how you're going to shove it up your ass. so the other desperados in the camp. Jeez, this nugget's really kind of gnarly in shape.
Yeah, you gotta watch.
That's how you get rich in a gold rush. Sell lube.
Yeah, because even if you had like a bit of a limp or any sort of waddle, they're like, that guy's got an ass full of gold. I've seen a golden ass in my time, and that guy's dragging his leg around weird.
Yeah, man. He's got a 22-carat ass.
And my God, if you just have a little bit of a limp, do not go to a gold rush, because they're going to look. Whether or not there's gold, and if they can't find any, they're going deeper. So, it's just...
I gotta tell you, boy, you're 100 years before X-rays. There's only one way we're doing this. Going down your mouth or up your mouth. It's not called a mouth. It sure is down here. Around these parts.
Call it what we want. And we better find gold or we're going deeper. So. You may want to, if you have a piece of gold, you may want to swallow it now to stop the vicious search.
We ain't got no magnets, and we ain't got no. There's only one way of doing this, boy.
You're looking at 3 lonely miners who do not mind searching for gold up a man's ass.
That's right. If I'm willing to pan for it, I'm willing to rim for it. That's where it would have been, though.
Yeah.
No? Well, there you go. I don't know how we got there, but it was better than war reenacting. You go Gold Rush.
Yeah.
I hadn't really thought about it, but now that I think about it, yeah. I'd probably like to shit out a castle and get somebody else to deal with it. Let's talk about idolatry.
Yes.
Statues. Graven images of man and beast.
Used to be one of the baddest things you could do.
Oof.
Make a statue.
Yeah, one of the top 10 baddest things.
Oh, yeah. Real sinful.
Oh, just carving a statue, but the whole time you're coveting your neighbor's ox.
I know.
They don't even know. They're like, holy shit, he's making a statue, the filthy fucking sinful monster.
I know.
The whole time
Inside.
you're just looking at that ox going, wow. Boy, oh boy.
Looking at your own ox going,
Man. My ox is rubbish compared to that ox.
Yeah, allow me to just go peep through the
shed door.
Peeping through a knot in the fence at your neighbor's ox. I mean,
just trying to turn conversation to milk yields with your neighbors. What are you getting out of her? She a 3-pointer?
Yeah, why do you ask?
Why do you ask, Jebediah? Nothing at all. I'll just get back to my statue over here.
Yeah, I mean, I can see you're not getting much out of yours, are you? That's a sickly ox you have there. You should
maybe focus on tending to your ox instead of making this graven image.
Yeah, that was the height of Oscar Wildean. So I said, like back then. I put one eyebrow in the air, and I said, well, then you, sir.
You, sir? Well, I might be drunk, but in the morning I will be an Old Testament prophet, and I will smite thee. Nobody smites anybody anymore.
Where's my sword? I'm about to have more children.
Yes, more smoting. But first I will watch that statue be made. I don't think I could name all the top 10 commandments.
No?
You can't kill people.
Yeah.
That's definitely in there. You can't, you shouldn't be lying. They're still really very in fashion. We're still opposed to the killings and the lyings.
Yeah.
But I think most of us we're kind of groovy now. We're willing to share oxes.
I watched half of the 10 Commandments, the movie. So I watched 5 Commandments. I got 5 Commandments. And it was one of those sweeping historical dramas I believe made in the 1950s. But it was back when a time where you couldn't swear. And it just struck me as odd. There was this, they were building the pyramids, and there was a slave master, and the slaves were all in this, trench that was filled with water, and they had to be doing something. They were digging or something, and the slave master just looked at them and just quietly went, "That's right. Dance, you mud turtles. Dance!"
Dance, you mud turtles.
Mud turtles.
Is this like a Charlton Heston, Victor Mature 1950s epic?
Yes, I believe it was. Those two men are in that movie, and it may have been Victor Mature who said it.
Right. So this is all sort of Ben-Hur kind of.
Yeah, but it was
Samson
just
Delilah.
So was so, he didn't yell it. He was just yes, like that. Like if you had that in your head, it would be such a weird thing. If you said that and I was around, I would probably laugh. Just in that, did you just call them mud turtles?
Mud turtles.
It's almost. It's worse than a slur or a swear. Yeah. I don't know. I
don't know who it's directed at, but it's yucky.
Oh yeah, mud turtles.
Oh God.
Yeah. In an attempt, I think in the time they were just we can't say any swear words. But you've actually exceeded swearing. I don't think I know anybody who would prefer to be called a mud turtle. I'd rather be a cunt.
Oh yeah. Just call me a slave. Yuck. I mean, dude, whip me, but ooh.
Yeah. And they all had to sort of look at each other like we're in water. We're like mud turtles.
I guess we are.
He said it.
Yeah.
He noticed.
But you think about the pyramids, right? You think of not only an astonishing feat to this day, the Grand Pyramids are truly still massive.
Nobody walks away going,
nah, I've seen better.
Yeah. You've been to Machu Picchu? That's really nice. This is adequate.
It's okay. It's a bit hot. It's quite deserty.
It's very hot. Could you not have done something about that?
No, they're still very, very impressive. But what's even more impressive is I don't know about you, but I find stunning to think up to a couple of 100 years ago, everybody had to work without the aid of caffeine.
Yeah.
Think of that. They built the pyramids with no caffeine in them.
Wow.
I know. And not only that, but I looked into it, right? There was no caffeine then. But what they did have in the time of ancient Egypt, building pyramids and whatnot, a lot of beer. Oh my God, they were big beer drinkers.
Yeah.
And they actually had jokes written on the inside of the pyramid. This part was built by the beer drinking mob. We're the beer crew.
But surely that was just depicted in hieroglyphs.
yeah, exactly. Just a lot. Whee! Just a hieroglyph of a little man throwing a plastic chair across a Spanish
just a
piazza.
Tableau of all these Egyptian beer drunks just out of hand.
But that's what I thought. I don't know if you've ever tried to do any manual labour in the sunshine while constantly drinking beer. You know, it is ever decreasing returns, which made me think maybe that's what the pyramids is all about. Like, originally they were meant to be building a giant cube. But, you know, with each step they were like, we'll just take it in a bit. And that's how you end up with a pyramid.
Yeah.
Beer.
Yeah. Well, I met some Egyptians in the Middle East once, and these were really funny dudes. This was the time. It's almost like a parable about how to write a joke. Because I knew that fact, and I was just drinking with the Egyptians the whole night, and I told them. I said, I wrote a joke about Egyptians. I said, they had a empire that spanned, the Mediterranean. They built these huge pyramids, and then they invented beer, and not a lot since. Yes. And these two dudes, they were like, oh, they were pounding the table. They were laughing so hard. They called up their buddy on the phone, and they were saying it in Arabic. Right. Like they were, and they sit down, and then they went like this, and the guy on the phone went, like he was fucking laughing, and I'm like, we're high-fiving. They're just absolutely pissing themselves, and then it all dies down, and I went, guys, I have to kind of admit to you something. It's the other way around. You had beer long before, and they went, yeah, we know, but it's not funny that way.
Fair enough. These people have been taking the piss out of themselves for 5,000 years.
Yeah.
Just sailing up and down the same river. Never interested in anywhere else. We'll just keep this river.
It's a good river, though. They're probably right.
Denial. I gotta say, it's a river that I've sailed down quite a few times. I've sailed down Denial.
Okay.
Looking across there. All right, yeah. You gotta do one dreadful pun per season. Gonna have to wait till Eejits 2024 before you get another one of them, Maxwell.
Yeah. Before Egypt even gets back in. Yeah. How much more are we going to say? Nothing happens in Egypt now, really.
I ask you, my friend, do you have any sporting historical Eejits?
Yes, I do.
Take me to your promised land of sporting historical Eejits.
Yes, I will. This happened. It was in the 70s. I read a book called Seasons in Hell.
Okay.
And it was about the worst baseball team ever.
Wow.
Yeah, they were just really bad, and the sports writer who had to follow them afterwards, 10, 20 years after, wrote a book about just how hard it was to follow this terrible team around and cover them in this mayhem. They were just really bad. They had an owner that didn't care, and they were having trouble selling tickets to even the other teams.
Are they a famous team?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think it was Texas Rangers or something.
Okay.
Just it doesn't matter which. Sometimes teams are bad.
Right.
But
it's like a major team like this, isn't it?
Yeah. They were in the major leagues.
Right.
And they just really sucked. So they people didn't want to go see them in other places, and usually people do, your team's gonna win because this team. But even that, so there was all these promotions to try and get people to come out. And in Cleveland, the Cleveland Indians owner.
The Cleveland still called the Indians.
No, yeah, back then, they're the Guardians now, so we can.
Are they?
Yeah.
We'll come back to that.
Their
Go
name to the
on.
Guardians, but this is back when they were, they were called the Indians, and their mascot was Chief Wahoo.
Oh God.
Yeah, this is 1970s. Nobody saw anything wrong with that.
There were no Native Americans in the 70s.
No. They were invented in 1984.
For a litter campaign. That's right. That's the actual history of America.
Yeah.
First, there was white men, Mormons. Jesus brought the Mormons
And the special glasses.
to Missouri. And then in the mid to early 80s, Native Americans came along
Yeah.
through an ad campaign.
Yeah. Yeah. And many of them were Italian.
Like the guy in the ad
Yeah.
was actually an Italian actor. Like, fuck's sake, you can't even find somebody indigenous to do this?
Yeah. Yeah. And that didn't teach you anything. That didn't tell you anything. I wonder where they all went. I know.
Yeah.
I know where they went.
They went to Little Italy. Well, you want to tell us about the horrific history of indigenous people's contact to Europeans? Forget about it.
So anyway, the team's heading into Cleveland, and they're not selling many tickets. And the owner of the Cleveland Indians realizes he also owns a brewery, and he realizes he's got a big batch of beer it's going to go bad, and for some reason it's not selling very well. So he decides to have 10-cent beer night.
Oh, like that would have been like the equivalent of 1 cent beer night now.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that was a very cheap glass of beer.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, this is 70s too. So like the writer's saying, like these people, they were showing up drunk for 10-cent beer night, and not all of them. Like too, like these like weird 1970 drugs like angel dust and
Barbiturates.
Oh yeah, fucking Valium, and these people were fucked. Yeah. But it sold out. Like they thought, oh, maybe we'll get 15,000-20,000 people. There's 50,000 people in Cleveland.
Wow.
All sucking down rotting 10-cent beer. And he said that it was okay for the first couple of innings. But there was a hum in the crowd. 50,000 people all getting the same bad idea. It was just slowly. And then it got to around the 6th inning, and that's when the fights started in the crowd. Real big brawls. And then it all spilled out onto the diamond. Just 50,000 Ohioans just beating the shit out of each other. The teams had to protect each other.
Stop fielding all the way out there. Yeah. Come in here where we have sticks.
Yeah, they did. The fans fought the teams, and the teams sort of joined forces to fight the fans, and they had to they had to abandon the game. The 7th inning, they were just like, no, we're gonna play this later when it's not 10-cent fucking beer night.
I have noticed most of our historical stories have involved booze.
Yeah,
it's really the history of booze.
That's right.
History plus booze produces Eejits. The Russian Navy.
There's
drunken
a real
Eejits.
Strong lesson in there for the kids at home if you're listening.
Pyramids built with booze.
Yeah.
Navies lost with booze.
Oh, the big drunk snake.
Oh.
Yeah.
Training a giant snake to drink vodka. But that's what we've learned, ladies and gentlemen, from the first ever inaugural Eejits of the World history.
Yes, history plus.
History blues.
History plus booze. And yeah, you may take it, kids, you may say,
I'm a dreamer, and I'm not the only one.
Yeah, but you'll say, I'll avoid alcohol because look at all of those people through history who made an ass of themselves. But remember, they also did something so funny that we still talk about it today.
Yes.
So,
If
it's heaven or hell.
It's exactly. If the Russian Empire, American sailors, the ancient Egyptians,
yeah,
and Cleveland, Ohio. If it wasn't for booze, you know what I mean?
We wouldn't even talk about them.
We didn't even talk about them.
We didn't mention. We got close to mentioning Utah. A little bit.
A little bit. We could have gone. We'll save the Mormons for another day.
Yeah, well, no one talks about the Mormons because they don't drink and they don't have any good stories. They got weird stories, but they don't have funny
A lot of
stories.
very similar stories. No, the door was slammed in my face.
Well, that's an improvement because I had a bat swung at me, so...
That is an improvement, Elder Johnston. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully that was informative.
And funny.
Well, hopefully it was informative, because that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
To informate people.
We're the infirmers.
We ferment information.
You drink it. You ferment it in casks. It's not the information that's a problem. It's the goddamn trees.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good night, Andrew.
Good night, Glenn.
This has been a Pod People production.
The Pod People production.
Pod People production.
Pod people.